Sure. So I started at then Black& Decker in a rotational program, and that allowed me to understand what the company had to offer and what I could offer the company by exploring different areas. I was in purchasing, manufacturing, and engineering, and I ultimately settled for a role in quality in manufacturing. And from there, I wanted to understand how we could improve the number of quality rejects we were having. So, working in a manufacturing facility, quality rejects meant that we weren't able to completely fulfill what we needed for the customer. And I went on a journey of problem solving. So, I wanted to create value by solving problems when I found them. And that so happened to be within the procurement space, the supply chain space. So I worked with suppliers in new products manufacturing, identifying suppliers for new products manufactured in our Asia as well as North America facilities, and negotiating pricing, lead time, working with engineering, quality, and manufacturing teams to make sure that the suppliers had the right manufacturing processes, and really trying to negotiate those and launch new products for equipment and power tools categories. As I worked with the suppliers, I wanted to do more. I wanted to build relationships because I was only selecting the suppliers at that point in time. And I went into category and supplier relationship management. And that really taught me a lot about the supply chain and procurement in general. And I worked in hand tools, power tools, and accessories, and really grew my experience with the supply base, negotiating joint development agreements, exclusivities, and not only doing new products, but working on existing products, resourcing. And then I came to risk because I had a supplier who had a pretty major financial issue. I mean, throughout the course of my career working with suppliers on mitigation activities, but it was in preparation for something. In this scenario, we saw a few cracks happening, and then all of a sudden the supplier stopped shipping. So I really wanted to prevent others from having to experience that. And around that time, we were forming a risk team. So I applied for it, and literally just a week before we had the COVID shutdowns, I joined the team, and we were really
Yeah.
thrown into it. So it was, we were supposed to be building the processes nice and slow, and
Yes.
everything was supposed to be perfect, but then it was like, gosh, you guys really have to hurry up and do something to build the resiliency within our organization. So been a part of the team since then, and I started leading the team around mid to the end of 2022.
Wow, that's actually amazing. And the fact that you aimed at joining it, and that's when COVID hit, literally acted like a catalyst to your journey of getting into supplier risk aspect, right? But I'm curious, did you intentionally get into supply chain and logistics, or was it just happening to you?
It happened to me. As I worked within the organization, I found an area where I liked and where I felt a passion for. And I had done engineering, I had a lot of analytical skills, I had a technical background, but I don't think that that took away from my ability to perform well and understand what goes on in supply chain and procurement. So for me, having had experience within the program was a good thing. As I said, I went into a 2-year program. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So it was a valuable experience for me to identify, hey, I kind of like this area, but maybe it's not it. This one, it feels like a good fit. And then what can I do to expand and explore within that area? And working with suppliers for me was that area.
Wow, that actually sounds awesome. And talking about risk and compliance, I feel that that's like a very thin line that exists between control and agility. So, how do you balance enforcing standards with allowing innovation in supplier relationship?
I think you definitively have to make sure that you have some kind of baseline, but
Mhm.
it's a baseline that's flexible enough for multiple teams, multiple parties to follow, because there are always nuances. And I mean, within supply chain and procurement, you could have two suppliers with similar spend, slightly different categories, but if you have to come to a contract negotiation with them, there's just something slightly different about working with them that means that you can't do copy paste. you have to be agile and you have to work a little bit differently to achieve potentially the same goal of negotiating a contract. So I think that within risk and compliance, that pretty much flows through the same kind of thought process, right? You can't put in something that's so rigid that when the teams try to mitigate risks, oh, well, you can only do this, it just won't work. So I think you definitely have to be able to have some kind of baseline, which team members can say, like, okay, these are some checklists that we can follow, but at the same time, if we have to veer, we can do so without negatively impacting the business.
Wow, that actually sounds very interesting to learn from, because when we say risk calculation and ensuring supply risk, I personally, when I think about it, it sounds like an idea where I am just one step away from offending one of the parties. Like, I need to ensure that I fulfill their requirements. Like, I need to give them that surety and protection from the risk. But at the same time, managing different aspects can be a task as well. And I feel
Mm.
that you are pulling off that job beautifully. And
Thank you.
about how your journey got pushed by COVID, I feel that in this sector, there are chances of disruptions and volatility a lot. This is a sector where you have to be resilient. So, talking about that, how do you ensure in your leadership style to ensure that resilience exists?
Sure. So going back a little bit to one of the things that you were saying, I don't think that we're ever going to be able to predict and prevent every single risk. And I think that doesn't mean that you have to be sloppy and just say like, hey, anything goes. But I think you need to be realistic about your opportunity to mitigate and minimize the impacts of some of those risks. So by prioritization. In terms of resiliency within leadership, I think it's about setting a direction. And I think it's about that agility we talked about, even within plans between risk and compliance, really trying to be flexible, but stay the course. When something happens, okay, it's happened. It's something that may not be very exciting. A supplier files for bankruptcy. Gosh, did we miss something? Let's go back and understand what we could have done better and how would we work with our stakeholders to do better in the future. I think stakeholder engagement and change management in general is something that needs to be part of your leadership strategy. How are you going to bring people on board? Because being a leader is not an individual activity, and you need to bring people with you. If you're not, then it's
I
difficult to
don't think you
lead,
can
right?
succeed.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like, I personally love pointing it out that supply chain, the word chain, it means it's a connection of different parties that are
Exactly.
involved. So if stakeholder management skills are not that well, I feel the whole system can fall off. I
Yep.
mean, that's how I think of it as. And
Yeah.
I feel that, as you just said, that it is so important to have that surety of you bringing everyone together. Leadership cannot just be a one person job. I feel
Sure.
that representation of people like matters a lot, and you have been one
Yes.
of the most amazing advocates when it comes to mentorship and talking about representation themes. So please tell us more about those ideas which really matter a lot.
Ideas within mentorship, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think at any given point in time,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be self-aware, right? I think self-awareness is key within any mentorship relationship. You might not get the advice that you think that you should, but you need to understand how it applies to you. And sometimes you might not be ready to receive that advice for whatever reason. You might not be in a space for it. It might not be the right time, but hold that advice, hold it somewhere
Yeah.
close that you can refer to it. And be curious. I think you need to be gracious towards yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much if things don't go exactly the way that you want to. But at the same time, maintain that self-awareness. Hey, I still want to grow in this particular direction. Where can I look for help? Where can I look for assistance? And at points in time, you may have a variety of mentors. they may help you grow in a particular area. If a mentor relationship isn't working out, I think that's also important for you to identify and say, maybe it's not going how I thought it should. I still use this as a valuable experience. And I think also looking at peer-to-peer mentorship, I don't think you should discount that, learning from your peers and being able to help them and encourage them. So I think whatever role you're in, you're a student, you can help other students, right? If you're a leader, help other leaders, help other team members who are growing. It may not need to be in a formal mentor relationship, but to the extent possible where you can help somebody and guide them, encourage them, hey, that was a great presentation. I think that's an aspect of mentorship that people do maybe underestimate. So it's not just having a formal relationship and sitting down and saying, hey, these are all the things that I think you should do. I think it's about listening to the person as well to make sure that you're helping them along the direction where they want to head.
Wow, that actually sounds like a totally different idea of mentorship than what we have been taught. I would say in school and stuff. The peer mentorship part especially sounds like a beautiful idea to me because I personally have started seeing it more. I think it's also because I'm trying to look for it that I see different
Sure.
leaders trying to uplift each other through comments on the LinkedIn post, through like talking and sharing ideas out there. And I feel that's really beautiful because we don't realize about that impact that just simple exchange of words can have on someone's ideas. Like
Yeah.
when I think about it, I feel that when I started this podcast as well, I had a lot of unsurety, but just some words of affirmation from my friends going like, what's the worst that can happen, at least we will watch.
Exactly.
These little statements do add a lot of value, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that fell under the title of mentorship till today. So thank you for expanding my sphere of understanding.
Sure. I mean, I,
It
I
really,
feel that they count, right? Because to your point, it is
Mhm.
encouraging to hear from your peers, hey, yeah, I'll, listen to this podcast or I'll read this article that you've contributed to. It does give you a boost.
Mhm.
I think it's important.
Definitely. And I feel the beautiful point that you pointed out about knowing and identifying when to stop that mentor relationship when it's not working is also important, because I feel when we say mentor, it's like we are kind of wearing that pink glasses where we see them as just the correct person for us,
Yeah.
and then it's hard to realize that it might not be working out. So
Yeah.
it is indeed a beautiful experience. I would love to know, have you ever had that experience where you identified that some mentorship was not working for you? And how did you manage to convey it and change your mentorship?
Yeah, I think sometimes the mentorship relationships may end a
Mm-hmm.
natural end too. I think when I was in that particular mentorship relationship, I didn't feel a super ease talking with a person. I felt okay, but then, I don't think it's about telling them all of your secrets, but then I realized I was still holding back things that I really wanted to know more about how
Get
to
advice
navigate
on,
the
yeah.
organization. Exactly. And so I kind of let it, you know, phase out because I didn't know, to your point, like I had on those
Yeah.
glasses like, yeah, I have to make this relationship work, and
Work,
it
yeah.
wasn't. And then I was like, okay, like I'm not setting up any meetings, like maybe it's run its course.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think you want to stay away from like a confrontational kind of
Yeah.
situation, right? I think at the
True.
end of the day, we don't know what everybody's going through. So
Yeah.
that point in time for that person may not have been ideal for you, but you can still keep it professional. You don't necessarily have to make an announcement, hey, yeah, I don't think that you're the right mentor for me. It just might be like, look, I
True.
appreciate the advice. And I think even the experience of an awkward
Yeah.
mentor relationship, you can determine later on, like as a mentee
True.
or a mentor, like you're going to
Why
write
that
out your
happened.
goals
Yeah.
together. Yeah. And you can say specifically, like, okay, I've had a poor relationship before. Please help me be a better mentee, or please help me be a better
True.
mentor. So I think you, I wouldn't make an all-out declaration like, hey, if somebody does offend, I
Yeah.
think you do have the responsibility, if you care about that relationship and you want to carry on an aspect of that relationship, hey, I didn't like what you were saying. I disagree with your assessment of me or something like that. But I think
Mhm.
you need to understand how you want the relationship to evolve. And I don't think a bad mentorship experience has to end badly.
Definitely. And I think it's just about how different two people can be. Like when you were talking, my brain just thought that, when it comes to me personally, when I'm talking to someone, I tend to be an emotional person. Like I'm not saying I'm totally sugar
Right.
coated, but I do have a layer when it comes to talking. So I feel a mentor who would be like that, who would be very practical and very honest, but would still have a layer, not be very brutal, because that's how I've
Exactly.
been built. So
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
think I have a mentor who is just very blunt, I think I would be like, I'm sorry, we are not doing this anymore because it
Yeah,
affects my mental health. But
sure.
that also means that person is not wrong, or I'm not wrong in feeling that
Yeah,
way, which is different.
correct. Correct. Yeah, I think you'll obviously, I think, go
Yeah.
through the conversation in your mind, you'll go through the experience, but I think
True.
absorb it for what it is. Don't spiral, what I call like a spiraling, like that moment doesn't define everything about you. Take the experience for what it is and make it into something that you can grow and learn from.
Definitely. And I feel this also falls back on the differences that people have in terms of their upbringing, their culture, their way they have been functioning. So I feel that you have been in such a high level position that you have had the opportunity to lead in different areas and regions where you deal with different cultures, regulations, and market differences. So, what is that specific, I would say, leadership behavior that you practice to ensure you are able to serve all the regions in the correct way?
Sure. I have a collaborative leadership style. am
Mhm.
naturally curious about
Mhm.
people. And when I ask questions, I'm not trying to be manipulative or,
Yeah.
get background information to pounce later. I honestly want to understand what people
True.
are thinking, and I want them to feel comfortable bringing their best selves to the table. I want to understand what are their personal and professional goals so that I can help support them. And as I said, when we're doing projects, is this something that you're excited about? And I know that you can't always align somebody's passions with their activities immediately, but to the extent that you can say, well, hey, might not be the right time right now, but let's work on this while you're doing this particular role,
Yeah.
and let's see how you feel about it, let's see how you grow, and then we can look for other opportunities. But I really try to ensure that everybody has a voice as well
Mhm.
as a vote. So I was
Wow.
at a gala last week, and that was actually from one of the speakers
Mhm.
mentioned it's not only about having that voice but having that vote.
Wow, that actually sounds like a beautiful way of functioning, I would say, because ensuring that each and every person feels comfortable does come at a higher level. Like the fact that you are at a higher position and still ensuring that each and every person is feeling heard and they feel like they're contributing is important to function correctly.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
feel our industry is definitely evolving a lot. So, how has this evolution in this sector affected your role of supplier risk management? How are you preparing yourself for the upcoming trends and changes?
So I think you talked about it earlier in our conversation
Hmm.
about the dynamics, right? Like
Yes,
there's just so much going on.
so
So we
much.
really have to prioritize and talk with our stakeholders and ask them like, okay, what are the biggest risks that you see for
See
your
your
particular
organization.
area? These are the ones that we see. Let's come together and let's align on
Mhm.
that. And I think it's about being able to walk with your stakeholder, as
Mhm.
mentioned. A lot of the other trends, you've got artificial intelligence, a lot of technology, but how do you use technology to the extent that it benefits you, right? You can just throw a lot of technology on there. It can be pretty flashy, but then the results are just like they're flat, right? You don't
Yeah.
know what to do with the information. So more technology doesn't necessarily equal more capability. It can, but make sure that you understand how you want to use it. And then I think just the general
Mhm.
need for agility, understanding what risks are here. Hey, how can we mitigate them? How can we minimize them? How can we really bring everybody to the table? And how can we ensure that the business is protected short and long term? So we have to be planning for the longer term. And one more thing, I mean,
Yeah.
don't let perfect get in the way,
Yeah.
because I have had situations where you're like, let's wait, let's wait, let's wait.
Yeah.
And things are happening, life is happening, business is
True.
evolving, and you're saying, let's wait. You don't have
True.
to wait. You can implement things, improvements along the way. They can help, and you can still go for perfect, but don't let perfect immediately get in the way of progress.
That actually sounds like an amazing piece of advice, especially the last line, don't aim for perfect. And to be honest, yes, I personally also felt like the first question was especially about the whole people aspect, and the second you just covered it. I was talking in terms of the AI changes, the digital tools that's coming into picture. But thank you so much for
Sure.
bringing that to light, that reliance way too much on the AI and making it all fancy is not going to serve the purpose if your work isn't saying speaking for itself, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. I mean, a lot of it is processes and making sure that people are aligned about what their role is in a particular process. So those are some things that I've had to learn the hard way. Those are things that I continue to evolve and understand. And hey, all right, the process isn't perfect, but that doesn't mean that we can't do anything. Yeah, if we bring in technology, let's make sure that it really enables us as opposed to hinders us.
Wow, that actually is perfect. And I think if we are able to maintain that balance, it will work perfectly in our favor. But knowing when to stop relying a lot on it is really important. And talking about the sector once again, it is my experience as well that it is still a male dominated sector. So, how has your experience been in that aspect?
Sure. So I think it's about
Mhm.
making sure you're bringing everybody along. Like I said, you're trying to help
Mhm.
mentor men, women. I think we need allies. And
Yeah.
so we need allies who understand what's going on. We need allies who are conscious of things and they're willing to speak up, and they're willing to say, "Hey, this isn't right," or "Hey, let's make sure that this person is involved." So I definitely try to ensure that within the team that we have a balanced leadership set. I don't consider myself to be the only leader within the organization, within our team.
Uh-huh.
So making sure that we have a balanced set of both men and women within the
Women.
team. Yeah. So I think it's
Balance is
important.
the key.
Yeah, balance is the key. Yeah. And as I said,
Wow.
allyship, right? There may be situations, to your point, that in your particular class, there are more men than
Men.
women, but you're looking for allyship with those men to make sure that
It
if your
puts
voice isn't being heard, they're helping to
they help
elevate
you.
that. Yeah. So
Wow.
I think
It
it's about
actually
encouraging
sounds
everyone.
definitely, and it sounds like a beautiful way of seeing it as well. Like rather than feeling that, oh my God, I'm being, pushed down because of the quantity of men around, we could use them as our allies and ensure that they are a part of us and they are the most supportive ones, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And what, again, it's like, it's one of my favorite questions, I would say, that what is that one amazing piece of advice that you would like to give a 22-year-old girl and other freshers around me who are still very new to the sector and planning to enter it soon, for us to not just survive but excel in the sector just as amazingly as you are excelling right now?
Oh, thank you. I think you keep your options open, right? I
Okay.
think whenever you are doing something, have pride in your work, bring your best self to the table. Don't assume that any one opportunity is too small, because I definitely believe that the small opportunities grow into the
Bigger.
bigger opportunities. But if you think, hey, this is too menial a task, this isn't
Yeah.
something I really want to do, and you do it poorly, then nobody's going to be able to see how you could succeed in a bigger task. So I say stay open, stay
To all the
flexible.
opportunities.
Yeah,
True.
and look, quite frankly, not all opportunities are great opportunities, right?
True.
But at the same time, identify them for what they are. What can you learn and grow from them? And if it isn't the right opportunity, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But use that to build, to be able to lead and be a part of bigger opportunities.
Wow, that actually sounds like an amazing, amazing piece of advice that I am definitely gonna try and follow as soon as I get that first job where I
Yeah.
don't know what role I'll end up with, but I'm gonna remember this and take up the opportunity that's gonna be coming my way. And I really did enjoy a lot today because I got to learn so much. I got a different idea about different words like mentorship, and it was a great learning session for me. I hope that
Thank
each and
you.
every person who watches it learns from our conversation just the way I did. Thank you
Thank you,
for joining me
Adishi.
today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank